Like, do you want to hear about an ex? Do you think that your conversations dating at this age like are more real, more fast, and that it's okay to
Yeah.
share this stuff?
Well, like one example, when you do go onto a dating website, right there, when you're filling out your profile, you have to click the box, or you should click the box, or whatever. They want you to click the box that is like, what do you want? Like, do I want a long-term relationship? Just looking for fun, not interested in ever getting married, because people want to know that going in.
Yeah.
Because if you do go on a website and you're going to put the time and effort in, you maybe don't, and I'm talking personally, like I guess I'm not going to click on someone who's like just interested in a few short dates, what have you, because like that's just not what I'm interested in. So I do think it's good to get on the same page. It doesn't have to be the very first date, but everybody needs to be willing and able to talk about it really early in, you know,
Okay. And
like.
what about like, so let's say somebody is going through a divorce, or let's say
Mhm,
somebody has a horrible ex-wife.
mhm.
Is there a way to talk about it that is acceptable versus not acceptable? I'm just trying to think like
Yeah.
what could turn you off, right? Or
No, but
what can
I
turn you on?
I think it has to be just, we have to be willing to talk about everything. And, you don't know what's going to turn someone off, and you don't know what's going to turn someone on. And that's just part of figuring it out.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Ask Women podcast, your favorite podcast. As you know, I'm one of your hosts, Kristen Carney from KristenandChillDating.com. And with me is my beautiful co-host, Marnie Kinrys from the ever infamous WinGirlMethod.com. And today we are going to be talking about dating women in their 50s. We have a beautiful woman in her 50s who Marnie met recently, who is single and dating, Jennifer Anderson. And she is going to tell us all about her
Not
dating years.
Jennifer Aniston, Jennifer Anderson.
I did say Anderson.
I thought you said
However,
Aniston.
I could
Okay.
be confused with the two because you're also gorgeous. And we're going to get to know all about what it's like dating in your 50s, things that guys need to know
Mhm.
that are going on with women. So
Exactly.
thanks
And
for
thank you.
joining us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us and thanks for agreeing to this because, again, you're not an expert in any area. You haven't pitched yourself to come onto our show. I made you come onto this show because you were just adorable and talkative and really open with me when I met you for the first time. So I was like, oh, you have to come on the show and talk to my audience. So thank you for being on.
Absolutely. This is just a path that I'm on, that all of us are on, and we can't avoid. And so there's so much to learn.
Yes. Okay. So I don't even know where to start, but I guess the first question is, are you dating right now?
I am dating right now. And along with the always present challenges of dating, this has added an extra hurdle. Especially when I was really starting to go through it, because I
Oh wait,
hadn't.
what are you referring to when you say it?
Oh, yes. Perimenopause. And for those who don't know, perimenopause can last for 8 years with us, and it is the time frame before we get to menopause. The thing that people don't know really is menopause literally lasts one day, 1 hour, 1 minute. And that is the exact
I didn't know
second.
that.
Yeah, it's the exact second that you have not had a period for 1 year, and you are, bam, I am now in menopause. The second that changes, meaning 1 minute later, you are now postmenopausal. This
Okay.
is from what I hear. So imagine, I always thought of it like there's two islands out there. There's the island of fertility, and there's the island of menopause slash postmenopausal women. And postmenopause isn't really terrible. Menopause isn't terrible as much as it's the
It's the
pre
buildup.
the buildup. And so there's a bridge in between both islands. And that bridge can be short and sweet. That bridge can be kind of long. That bridge can be rickety as hell, and you might fall into the water a few times and climb yourself, back out. It's really the bridge getting there, which is the perimenopausal stage, which is so tough and so hard
It
to
is.
navigate, because now it's coming, to light. But before this, there was really no roadmap. There was no one talking about it. There was
Right. You were
no
in the dark
idea.
about it. I was going to start with
Absolutely.
where do you meet men? And she just dove right into,
I did
well,
dive
it's
in.
really hard for these 10 years.
Well,
But
because
no,
well,
but
because
because it
like
is, because that is, these are the challenges
Mhm,
of dating women who are anywhere from, really it's 35. It's longer than eight
mhm.
years. It starts at 35, but it starts to become
You can,
more
yeah.
more intense, like 45 and up, I would say, on average for most women to
Hmm.
go through this period of time in their life. I do want to take one step back before we jump into perimenopause and just I want to go cover the basics with you of dating. And then
Hmm.
I definitely want to talk about the impact of going through perimenopause and what that does for you as a woman and how it can impact a man's dating life and dating a woman who's going through
Hmm.
perimenopause.
Hmm.
So let's take one step back to, okay, you're dating, which is
Hmm.
amazing. Where do you meet men right now, and where are you open to meeting men right now?
Well, I mean, that question is not just to anyone in their 50s. That really is for everybody. So for me personally, though, yes, have I tried the apps? Have I done all that? I always think that's kind of like a necessary evil, but it's the last choice that I want
Right.
to make. But it is a necessary evil. As you are in your 50s, you're not out and, running around and, your friends, your circle of friend gets smaller only because A, we get more picky, but everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. So it does get more difficult. So doing that, you try to go through obviously the friends and that way and join certain groups or at least hobbies or things like that. And then you always wish, at least I always wish for that simple organic way of, bumping into someone, running into someone.
So,
Um,
so which means that you are open to men coming up to you
mhm,
randomly and approaching you.
absolutely. I mean, we
Absolutely.
have to be open to that in all aspects of life, women
Right. But for
friends, just,
dating
yeah,
specifically, you're open to it. But
absolutely.
But which men are you not open to coming up and approaching? Because I want to find out, like, where is the line between, oh, I would like you to approach me, and oh, I definitely do not want you to approach me. Like, who are you open to being approached by? What do they have to have or be in order for you to say, oh, I would like to talk to them and potentially think about them in a dating space?
Well, I think because I am in my 50s, I don't want to play around anymore and play games and just do all that. So if you are going to approach someone, um, I hope that it's because you want to at least explore something and meet that person and want something. It's not just like, hey, I'm drinking in a bar and horny, you know?
Right.
That's what
Which
you
sometimes
hope.
that's good. Yeah, exactly.
It
But
can be, yeah, it can be, of course, but you just, we all hope for that genuine kind of real connection.
and
Um, but
what does
but
that look like? Yeah, what does
well,
that look like?
let me say, like, back up though, like, but you don't ever know if that's going to happen or if that exists unless someone approaches you. So you really have to be open to everything,
Yeah.
and just be kind and talk for a moment and be honest and say like, okay, well, it's nice meeting you, or talk longer, or would you like to call me, or anything like that. But so what does that look like? That looks
Well,
like,
I'm gonna ask different questions that might
mhm.
lead you in the right direction. So does it look different than it did look in your 20s and 30s? Like, do looks matter as much? Are you looking more now for honesty and sincerity versus when
There's
you
a
were in
whole
your 20s and
package.
30s? Okay.
I think there's a whole package. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm picky. I'm picky with myself. I'm picky with how my life looks and what I want and what I want to do. So I do expect that a bit, so you want someone that's where looks, I mean, handsome in a sense, there's got to always be some attraction, but does it have to be drop dead gorgeous? No, there's just more to that package. That's just a small percentage of chemistry and you like the way they look, but put together, kind of have their act together, things like that. You don't want someone who's just disheveled and a mess and kind of had too many and things like that. So you
Yeah.
want that respectable kind of person coming up to you. So yeah, I mean, looks matter because I always want to have some chemistry, but it's not the same as I think when I was younger,
Right.
because that was so much more. That was like an 80%. And then, down the road, you'd maybe delve into certain things and
Right. Do they have to be super fit? Do they have to have a ton of hair? Are those things
No, I don't
important
think
to
you have
you?
to add super or in front of anything right now, but
Right.
you want to have someone who, again, takes care of themselves. That just comes from respect and the same kind of lifestyle that I have.
Right.
So you have to look at someone who's a little bit of a mirror, even though they say opposite attract. These kind of opposites do not attract to
Right.
me. So, you do want someone who, is concerned, they look at their health. They are concerned about how they come across in an appearance. I think someone who, has any success in life, and it's not about the dollar figure, it is about that success and how they carry themselves. They're going to be presented that way, I
Okay.
think. I don't think you get to that success level and kind of just a hot mess.
Right. And what about guys who are like a little bit shy?
That's always been probably something hard for them. And, you have to at least just say hi and see how that
But is it,
reaction
but for
is.
you, so let's say there was a guy who was shy but came up and he approached you, and
Mhm,
then wasn't really a great conversationalist. Maybe put the
mhm.
pressure on you more to carry the conversation. Would that
And
what?
I can talk and I can carry the conversation. That's just something that I can do. I think some women struggle with that. But for me, no, you have to be able to talk. And, if anything, you're just having a nice time out. I've done this before, just with another girlfriend, like having dinner, but sitting at a bar. I like to just sit at the bar because it's just kind of more social. You're just not like cornered away
Yeah.
at a table with someone. And I always will chat with the person next to me. I just think, why just sit and lock eyes with a friend you've had forever and talk about it unless it's some serious thing? Then go get a table, right? But I
Yeah.
talk to everybody next to me and like, how's your dinner? What's good? And I always
Well,
end
actually,
up
so
chatting with
I'm going to
people.
interrupt you for 1 second, but so then what's the difference between, because if you're really chatty and really
Hmm.
friendly,
Hmm.
what does it look like when you're actually attracted to somebody versus just being very friendly? So that's one question. And then what is it? What are you looking for? What does it take for you to be attracted? Like, it's not just, is it just connection,
Hmm.
conversation? But let's answer the first question first. What does it look like when you are actually attracted to somebody? Do you know how that feels or what it looks like
Yeah, and
on
I
you?
think flirting is flirting. It's pretty
No, but
common.
explain it, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it
not
is.
obvious to a lot of the guys that are listening, because some of them
Yeah,
cannot like see the
I,
cues that,
I see.
okay,
I
I'm
know.
interested.
I hear
Yeah.
you. I think I and women too would talk a little bit more. If someone says, "Hey, how are you doing today? How's your meal?" "Oh, great. How's yours?" "Good, thanks." Oh, and then like we turn back around and continue on talking to our friend.
Right. But
That's
you're
probably,
chatty. You
yeah,
said you're chatty. So how would
correct.
it look
But
different on you?
I am chatty, but if there's someone and we go back up two more steps and that person doesn't look like they take care of themselves or there's just no attraction or whatever, I will always be kind and say, "Hi, can I sit here? How's your dinner?" Everything like that, or, something. But it's not as brought into the conversation. That
Oh, so
person isn't as
you won't
brought into
engage
the,
as much. Okay.
not just no, not constant. So I think for me, and this has happened to me with someone that I'm dating, and I sat down and, we just spark a conversation. And of course, I'm always going to bring, again, I was with a girlfriend. She was on the other side of me because, you sit in a bar, you sit in a line, and she was on the other side. And of course, you bring your friend into the conversation. But it was just much more of a conversation. I mean, there was more of it. There was more engagement and asking questions. I mean, people ask questions of others, whether it's me asking a guy a question or vice versa, because there's an interest there. If you don't ask a lot of questions, I mean, again, you can be kind, you can ask the one or two, "How's your dinner?" But the more you ask, I think, is just a, more interest.
That's for you. That's what it looks like. It
Hmm.
is just
Yeah,
to be more
more
engaged.
engaged. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then
Absolutely.
so on the flip side with the guy, is he just having typical conversation with you? Are you open to being flirted with in the beginning? Are you okay with slight touching? Like what are you okay with at this
Yeah.
stage? Like,
I
yeah.
mean, if it's someone that I am, so someone sits down to me next to me, we'll go to that same scenario in line in a bar, on a bar, someone sits down next to me and I start talking to them, and they engage as well, because again, I can read the room too, if they are answer a question or what have you, but then kind of turn back around or just watching the game or what have you. It's like, okay, great. You
No,
know,
but that okay, so stop there
that
for a
is
second.
not,
So
yeah.
that's interesting.
Hmm.
So for you, what it means to you if the guy isn't as engaged, not asking questions, not sharing about himself, to you that means disinterest from him.
Correct. I
Okay.
definitely have that assumption.
Okay.
Absolutely. So if they're really shy, that's something that they have to think about as well,
Hmm.
because it does. I think, it's like, okay, you can be as nice as you want, but if you turn away and maybe they're with their friend and they just keep talking or they're watching a game and they can be as nice as possible answering my one or two questions. But if it's just me constantly leading, then I do take that as, okay, it's a nice person, but end of story.
Right. Not interested. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you do want some engagement back and the typical like eye contact, whatever flirting looks like. And you mentioned touching. And yeah, I mean you can look again, you've met someone for 10 minutes, you're there with your friend. But yeah, if someone reaches over and touches the top of your hand or something like that, as it goes on, that's just another obviously like, oh, okay, so he's a little interested. So we have to have cues and pick up on things. And it's really, I think, you hope that it's pretty even. No one wants to be the driving force.
Right.
So, if I talk to you and you are interested, talk back, you know,
Okay.
and vice
Well, so
versa.
so I have another question. What if there's somebody that's sitting beside you at a bar that you don't find attractive
Hmm.
at first, right?
Hmm.
W- And this is a hard question to answer. Is there a way for him to change your mind, or is that decision pretty set for you? Like, could you shift your perception of him? And does your attraction potentially change?
It is a hard question to answer because, again, it's a very personal thing of when we find someone attractive. And again, attractive doesn't just mean physical. So
Right.
it's a very personal thing. And it's hard to even know as a woman, why did I think that person was
Yeah.
attractive? I mean, because we're all different. So
Right.
it is really hard. But
Well, have
yes,
you ever had situations where you've met a man who you didn't feel anything for him in the very beginning,
mm,
but then as you got to know him, it changed? And maybe even
absolutely.
vice versa, like the other way where
Absolutely. It's more persistence though and time. So this can't be answered meeting someone sitting at that bar in the first, for a few minutes because it does, you start to know more about them, their personality, you see them quote unquote in action, out with other people, friends, what have you, and it starts to change because there's definitely been people in the past that I've dated that I wasn't super attracted to in the first meeting, but
Mhm.
over time in meeting them, and I think there's so many prongs that come into effect. It's like, again, how are they out with their friends, their family in public, their career and their success. And I always hate to say that on things like this because it doesn't mean a dollar amount. It just means I'm a smart person and I've put in the hard work and I've done due diligence, which means I'm successful, which all drives back to a personality,
Mhm.
because
Definitely.
someone who, is lazier isn't going to be as successful. And that's not something that I'm really looking for. So the success doesn't mean dollars. It just means a driving force.
Okay.
But it does take some persistence, but I think it goes back to sitting there. You have to be willing to ask at the end of the conversation because you have, and this is to men, meaning, and yes, I guess women as women, and time has changed greatly over the decades, but we can ask too. I understand that, but if you have a conversation and as a guy you're a little shy, but I've been talking, I've been doing this, just ask and say like, would you ever want to get together and have a drink?
Mhm.
I hope that person, if they don't want to, is kind enough to say, I'm not, you don't have to say you're not
Yeah.
interested. I've said things like I'm with someone because I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't think that's a
Right.
good approach,
Right.
but you don't know unless you ask. And that's just such an old saying, but
No, but it's true. But so
yeah.
what are some things that are different from dating in your 20s and 30s and even 40s compared to now? Like are there differences for things, maybe even things that you expect of men that maybe you didn't expect earlier?
I think as men get older and women, I'm just saying men because that's what I've been looking at.
Yeah,
We do get set in our ways and we have baggage, and baggage doesn't have to be a negative term either, but there's kids, there's ex-wives, there's, so many changes. And again, we get set in our ways. It's like, well, it's fine, but I'm never going to move out of this house and I'm never going to do this. And,
yeah,
so it's just those type of hurdles. I almost thought when I was like starting in my 50s, and I was in a relationship in the beginning of my 50s, which we'll talk about down the road because I is right when I was entering menopause.
yeah,
But you made changes for people like where are we going to live? What are you going to do? And all these changes. And I thought, oh, as I get into my 50s, it could be easier because, we're not looking at having to get married, having kids. They're not
right.
just like running around looking at every hot girl on the planet. It'll get easier. And I gotta say, it hasn't gotten easier. It
Because of
hasn't.
you or because of them?
It's just everybody. I think as we get older, all these things are still following us, and they can be great things like knowledge and
Yeah.
acceptability and all that, but it can be really difficult things too.
Like
You
what?
know, as I said, like, you know, people have ex-wives in their lives. They've been through it all. They're like, oh my God, I don't want to go through this again. They
Yeah.
have kids that are still living at home. Um, whether they should be or shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
and some have challenges that way, and
Yeah. And how what
divorce.
well, so in dating right now, like are do you want a first date to be light and easy and breezy, or do you want to hear some of that stuff? Like, do you want to hear about an ex? Do you think that your conversations dating at this age like are more real, more fast, and that it's okay to
Yeah.
share this stuff?
Well, like one example, when you do go onto a dating website, right there, when you're filling out your profile, you have to click the box, or you should click the box, or whatever. They want you to click the box that is like, what do you want? Like, do I want a long-term relationship? Just looking for fun, not interested in ever getting married, because people want to know that going in.
Yeah.
Because if you do go on a website and you're going to put the time and effort in, you maybe don't, and I'm talking personally, like, I guess I'm not going to click on someone who's like just interested in a few short dates, what have you, because like I don't, that's just not what I'm interested in. So I do think it's good to get on the same page. It doesn't have to be the very first date, but everybody needs to be willing and able to talk about it really early in,
Okay. And
like,
what about like, so let's say somebody is going through a divorce, or let's say
mhm,
somebody has a horrible ex-wife.
mhm.
Is there a way to talk about it that is acceptable versus not acceptable? I'm just trying to think like
Yeah,
what could turn you off, right? Or
no, but
what can turn you on?
I think it has to be just we have to be willing to talk about everything. And, you don't know what's going to turn someone off and you don't know what's going to turn someone on. And that's just part of figuring it out,
Right.
because if you start telling me all about your ex-wife and I'm okay with it, I'm okay with it. And maybe it gets so crazy that there's a point that I'm not okay with it.
Right.
But I need to know that. And you would need to know that if I have someone in my life, who's, this guy's been stalking me, I mean, you need to just be able to share it. And I think
Is there a way to express that to you? I'm because I'm asking this because last
because,
night we did a master class on emotional intelligence, and they
hmm
were talking about trauma dumping, like
hmm
because we were talking about the difference between vulnerability and overly emotional and
hmm
weakness, and
oversharing kind of
yeah, and
thing.
oversharing. So we were talking about trauma dumping because a lot of
hmm
guys do that. They'll go onto a date, and
hmm
the door gets open to talk about their ex-wife, and they'll talk about their ex-wife
hmm
and negatively talk about their ex-wife, right?
Yeah.
Because the woman's nodding and listening and saying, "Oh, that's so hard." So he thinks she's very opening to listen to
hmm
that, but on the other side, she's like slowly becoming turned off. So it
Correct.
is there like what is the appropriate way to bring up that they have these things going on in their
I
life?
think you have to be able to read the room because yeah, the girl's nodding and things, but I'm sure they can probably say like in hindsight, there's a little glaze of the eyes or a little not
Like,
as
okay,
engaged
get me
because
out of here.
that I go back to that engagement of conversation. And when someone's truly interested and want to talk about it, they do kind of keep going and really, what, tell me more about that or something, where if it's like someone's trauma dumping and just bad mouthing, you kind of just, you might be nodding and looking at them, but you're not engaging.
Yeah.
It really, it's just kind of a natural resistance. So I think, yeah, there's always these fine lines, and there's no perfect answer, and there's nothing that, you can say as Marnie, being a coach, like that, this is exactly what you follow. But I think, you do want to say, like, I've been divorced. We have a great relationship, or we don't. It's been hard. My kids are at home, and kind of go from there. And then I think let's say that's the second date. And on the third date, I'll ask more if I'm interested. I'll want to know, like I said, it's like people who are interested want to know information. And so they ask both sides, man, women, whatever. If I'm,
Right.
it goes back to, if I'm talking to a guy, whether I just met him or didn't, or have known him for a little bit, like if they don't ask me any questions, it's kind of like, well, you don't want to know anything about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard
And
that
what do you say?
from,
What do you say that you're asking questions because for you, getting answers is going to create
it's
more
not just getting
connection
answers, because I'm actually interested. If you're interested in that person, you want to know about them.
because it makes more connection,
Yeah,
right?
it
That's
does.
why
It
you're asking.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And it makes more of a connection. You're curious, you want to know, like, and yeah, you're always kind of tabulating, like, oh, that interesting. Okay, I like that too. Oh, interesting. I like that. So it's always like you're gaining knowledge to keep going down a path.
Yeah.
And so you really need to know. And I've heard that from a lot of people and girlfriends that are on dating apps, where it's like you get an answer, but it's like that yes, no kind of answer. And we've all been taught in life, like, that's not how you communicate, you
Right.
know?
But I actually,
Yeah.
not a lot of people are taught that. They
But
just
like,
answer the question that's being asked. So that's
open,
interesting.
yeah, ask a question in return. So, do you have kids? Yes. How many kids do you
Yeah.
have?
Well, you
Four.
also don't want to, just as a skilled communicator, because we have to be in the online dating sphere, not asking close-ended questions, because we're
Mm-hmm.
just going to lead ourselves into that back and forth, dry answer, dry question, information exchange, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. And I've tried that in many different scenarios where you do ask an open-ended question, but you still get a quick
A
little
quick
answer,
response.
but no question asked back.
Oh,
Like, so that's what I
okay.
mean. So it's like, do you have children? And how old are they? I mean, I'm trying to think of examples, but no one says, like, oh, do you have children? Like, they'll answer the
Yeah.
question and they'll give some information. I have two boys and blah, but then they don't ask me, like, so,
Okay.
well,
So this is something
So,
that's very
so you
important to you.
obviously don't care if I do or not,
Because that's what it says to you, right? That's
Yeah,
what it says to you.
yeah.
Interesting. So I'd like to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and talk about like the top mistakes that you see men making, even hearing from your other girlfriends as well. And then I definitely want to talk about dating women with perimenopause. So we're going to take a quick break, listen to our sponsors, and then we'll be back.
Great.
Okay, we are back. So I want to talk about these so not quick mistakes that you see men making and that you hear from your girlfriends as well. So not asking questions back, not giving more than 2-word answers, even though you've only asked for something that
Mhm.
needs 2 words to answer. What you're looking for is more, because more can tell you more about them, right?
Correct. More tells you more, and it also tells you that there's a genuine interest in there on their part.
Yeah,
Not only is it not asking questions, it's retaining the information too. I've had so many times, I've had a conversation with someone and it's great, and like you might meet up with them again, second date, what have you, and they kind of ask the questions again, and it's like, okay, are you asking these so many to so many women and you're not remembering? Did you not even bother to really kind of clock it and put it in, So again, it just reads the level of interest. Is I've gone out and they're like, oh, I remember you was going to order you a tequila. You like tequila. And it's like, oh yeah, you remembered. That's great. Like, people feel good about that when you remember something and you're talking about that. So it's just nice to have the back and forth, and please ask questions. Like,
yeah.
if you're not interested, then don't. We understand that. But if you are, like, you make someone feel good to ask questions about them and literally remember the
And
answer.
remember,
Yeah.
yeah, and remember what
well,
you've said.
I always say to my guys, because what happens is, and the men that you're talking about, these guys are not guilty of what I'm about to say, which is asking too many questions, because they're clearly not. But men do get worried about getting caught up in this question answer where I feel boring as a man just asking a question. Obviously, we're talking about being polite and asking a question back.
Mhm.
But what I tell my guys, and even for women, give information to get information.
Mhm.
So it's like if you say, "Do you have any kids?" and he says, "Yes, I have 3," you respond with, "Oh, awesome. I have 3 too. Are they as crazy as mine?" So you
Mhm.
just gave him the information. Yes, he didn't ask it, but it's pulling him into the conversation in a way that he might not be sophisticated enough to be able to do or to know, or maybe, yeah, maybe he's not that interested, but all of a sudden
Mhm.
he's becoming interested because we're showing personality, and we're looping him in a way where if we didn't give this information before, we wouldn't have looped him in and he would have just stayed meh. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it can
You're
help, but then
absolutely right.
sometimes the guys, or the girl,
Right,
either
but the
way,
guys that
is
we're
helpless,
talking
but
about, we don't want them to be helped. We want
right.
them to be leading the conversation. So what you're saying and what I hear you're saying is that they should be saying those statements,
That's
right?
what I tell my guys to do.
Right.
Yeah. But if
Absolutely.
you're a woman on the other end, I know we're talking to men, but if you're a woman on the other end, you can also give that a try and see if it gets his engine running a little bit. And I say,
Abs-
give it 3 tries. And then if not, move on.
Yeah. But that's interesting because what you're showing is that many, many women are also waiting for that man to give more, right? That's what it,
Hmm.
Absolutely.
yeah.
We just want to feel like, again, that there's some genuine interest. And I always keep going back to it's as simple as engaging. And that's just a really simple kind of statement. I get it. But it's just, if someone answers the question and then turns back around to look at the game, it's like, okay, you know.
Right.
So it's
Well,
just
that's
as
what it's saying to
simple
you.
as that. Yeah.
What it's saying to you. What are maybe two other mistakes that you've noticed? Like, what about the follow up after a date? Let's say you go and you have a great time, you maybe kiss at the end of the date. Actually, are you
Mhm.
open to a kiss at the end of the first date?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, a little make out,
Yeah.
a little touch. Okay, but
Yeah.
but so afterwards,
It's
what
just
is
another signal. It's just another like, oh, okay, they are interested. I mean,
exactly? Okay, so you're open to it.
mhm.
Okay, what's the follow up after that? What are you expecting? What are you wanting? And what turns you off in the follow up after that?
The we all want to hear like, even like that night. So let's say you just met for a drink, early afternoon or something. It's nice to always hear like when they got home or something like, hey, that was a really great time. Um, let's do it again soon. I mean, you don't have to set it that time, but it's the ambiguity of, I said that word strange, but of going forward that kind of makes you crazy, like, well, okay. And
But
I'm a strong,
is the going crazy a good thing? Like, does that also like
it can if there's some follow through the next day or something,
okay,
but I'm a strong woman. I have no problem of reaching out and saying, hey, did you want to, like, hey, we should go out again. But I don't really want to be in the driver's seat. I am a little old fashioned that way. I am in my
yeah,
50s. So I really do want that strong person who will kind of take the lead and go with it. So it's always nice. If you really enjoyed the date, it's really nice to send that note afterwards.
okay,
It really is. And then, say I'm gonna it's always nice to set an agenda. I mean, you do that in work, you do that with everything, like, hey, that was really nice. I'm checking my schedule this week, but I'm gonna text you on Tuesday and let's plan another time to go out.
yeah,
Great. Then text me on Tuesday. Do
right.
not follow through,
Follow through, exactly.
And again,
And then, but
it's
you can give the space in between, right? It can be Saturday night
absolutely,
and you can have 3 days without texting. I love that because that's the guidance that I give to men as well. It's
yeah,
like you can leave her hanging for sure,
yeah,
but either
yeah.
that can piss her off or it can make her extremely excited, but then her nerves are sort of shattered
There has
waiting
to be
for
some
you.
follow through at some point, and hanging
Yeah.
for, like you said, 2 or 3 days, okay. And this is in the very beginning. We don't,
Yeah.
with every step you take, you get
Yeah.
you want
You
better
have more
behavior.
accountability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, if someone says like it was great, and I have a busy week, but I'm going to reach out to you this week. You don't have to be so specific about Tuesday, but I'm going to reach out to you this week. Again, just do it, because when you don't, and if you are interested, then you just completely turned me off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not interested, then that's exactly what I'm thinking. So end
Right.
of story,
Right.
But
Right.
then
Right.
don't
Right.
say like, well, then I'm going to reach out. 'Cause some people have a really hard time with, I, I,
I
I
didn't
went
feel
out with her and I
chemistry.
didn't
Yeah.
feel anything. They have a really hard time. So, this didn't exist when I was younger, because you asked what's harder.
Yeah.
Ghosting didn't exist. There was no term. People didn't do it. And now that's just so common and expected, which
Hmm.
is really terrible. It's like,
Well,
hey,
was there a ghosting, and just in the sense of they just don't call on the regular telephone? Wouldn't that be like the old school
the old
ghosting? And
rotary
The
dial-up.
old
yeah,
telephone.
you're
Yeah.
sitting by the phone just waiting and waiting.
Yeah, there is, but it just didn't feel, because there was only that kind of one channel, it didn't feel the same as it
Yeah.
Right.
does now, but so many people, and I'm always just going to say men, I know women do it too, but we say we're going to do something because we don't really kind of want that like loose out, and then we don't. It was just like, that's the easy way. Like, I was nice
Yeah.
afterwards. I said, she asked if I wanted to go out again. I didn't know what to say. So I said, yeah, I'll call you. And that whole thing, which as we get older, and people have been through life and success and this and that, like, just don't do that,
Yeah, I agree with you. What about texting in between? So let's say you go on a date on Friday night and then he messages saying, I had a great time. I'll be in touch later this week. And
Mhm,
then texts you on Thursday to set up another date on Saturday. Do
mhm.
you expect texting back, or do you
I
need
think that's
texting
really,
back and
I
forth in
don't need
between?
it. It's really nice to have. And it can be literally as simple as thinking of you, hope you're having a nice day. That's all you have to write. That is
Really?
so easy. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Even
then,
even after one date, thinking of you.
well, I mean, like I said, if it goes what your scenario was you went out on Friday
Right. You like each other.
and he sent a text that was great. I'm gonna text you this week and we'll plan something. And he's still, people get busy and I kind of like that. I like someone who's busy, right? So get busy and it's like, don't wait until Saturday and go, hey, when do you want to go out now? It's like, hi, thinking about you having a really busy week, but we'll get back to you soon, or just something. I mean, it's
Okay.
just a
So
nice thing to hear. Yeah,
okay.
it
Doing like
just,
a
Okay.
little doing like a little callback is such a good idea for men. So if you talked about something on the date, and let's say you said you, I don't know, loved, this is stupid. You loved mozzarella sticks or
mhm.
I
something,
mean, who
you know,
doesn't?
right? Who doesn't?
You're a mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he sees cheese, snaps a picture at the grocery store and says, wouldn't this all
Absolutely.
be so great fried? Or whatever, calling back to the mozzarella sticks. So boom, there you go. And then you can haha the picture and then move on. There doesn't need to be a long follow-up, but
Because
it's a cute,
what's that?
playful thing to say, hi, I'm remembering you. I thought about
Absolutely.
you, and we
It's
don't need to now talk for an hour.
it's
But
telling,
so
yeah.
it won't piss you off if he hasn't set up another date?
Not yet. I mean, there's a
Not yet. There's a time frame.
time
Okay.
frame.
So if
Like,
like another weekend goes by
yeah, yeah,
and he hasn't set
that's
up a
bad.
date. Okay. But
That, and
what
it
if he
doesn't have to be for the weekend. It can be like, look, I'm so sorry, I've been swamped, but can you go out next Tuesday, whatever it
yeah.
is? But what to address Kristen's point was that all the things that we do when we date, the whole point is you meet, you kind of have an interest, the whole point is like you're going down a path. Do we like each other? And that little text is like, oh, okay, he's interested. We're on the right path for now. I mean,
Hmm.
you're still learning and exploring, but if you don't text any of that in between and it's next Saturday and something goes by, we're sitting at home definitely going, okay, I don't think he was interested. I don't know what's going on, or else
Yeah, once a
he's.
weekend goes by. So once you have established the day, because the only reason I'm asking this question is because I have so many guys who are like, okay, I text her on Tuesday. We've set up a date for Saturday. Like, how
Now
much should
what?
I be communicating in
Because they don't want
between
to feel.
Tuesday and Saturday? They don't want, because what I actually believe is that I think you have to text with purpose, right?
Hmm.
So if you're just, the purpose is, I don't want to lose her by
Hmm.
Saturday, because that's where,
Hmm.
a lot of the guys that
Yeah.
we're working with come from. I don't want to lose her. And so they just text without purpose. So they don't send a cute mozzarella picture, or they send a cute mozzarella picture 5 days in a row,
But
right?
just
And that,
the simplicity of thinking about you, hope your day is going well. is
Yeah, excited
so
for Saturday.
that's it. And that doesn't take anything. It doesn't make
But
you
do you do that
seem
every
like,
day?
no,
No. Okay, good.
no,
So
no.
just once in between.
No, I'm like I said, I'm very independent. I want someone who's very independent. And I said like, okay, I like success. Again, I always say not the dollar figure, but usually one goes with the other, but you're busy, that kind of guy I like. You're busy. You got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
If you're texting me every day, every hour, that is actually a turn off. I'm like, whoa, what's
What if
going
he's
on?
retired?
Still though, you got stuff going on.
Exactly.
You
Okay,
know,
good. I love
I
that.
mean, you
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and even if you don't pretend like you do to me for
Pretend
a
like
minute,
exactly.
it's
That's what
like
I wanted to hear.
pretend because
Perfect.
it's like, it's that, no, but then again, it's so funny because there is a fine line, guys. There is like, it's like 2 days is cool, 3 days and a half gets longer. There's that
But
fine
there's nothing
line.
wrong with making her wait a little bit longer
Oh,
as well.
a little bit, but there's
Yeah.
a fine line where now it's been a long time. What's
Yeah.
going
Now
on?
it feels intentional and kind of
Yeah,
hurtful.
Yeah. And that
yeah.
you've got a million other things going on that are you're not as important anymore, even though
And
you had a
then,
And
great connection. Yeah.
and I
But
do I do feel bad for men, but the truth is, there is a balance because if you go overboard, women don't like that. If you go underboard, they don't like that. But it's the same for men.
yeah, same for
That
men. If a woman's texting
so
every single day, they're like, good God,
this
get to
is
stop this
just
yeah.
stupid
life.
fucking
You're
texting.
out selling things. You can't sell too hard or sell. We're selling, right? Is that what we're
Yes.
doing? We're selling
Exactly. You
ourselves.
got to make them want it and be
And
curious
so,
about you.
it's the same thing with some guy selling a car somewhere, like it's just
Ugh,
his
I wish car
balance.
salesmen tried to sell you now. Now they're like, just take it. This is the price. Too bad if you can't
So
afford it.
I know it's
I do want to talk about perimenopause. So what have you noticed? Like how does that impact you in relationships and you in dating? Like does that make it hard to date sometimes? Are you more emotional? Are you more moody? Are you more reactive? Are you like what's going on?
all of the above, and now
Right.
everyone's hanging up. But
Right. But no, but do
so
you show this in the
this
beginning with your in
no,
dating? Okay.
no, because
You hide the Perry.
it has a bad stigma though. It's like menopause, you're old and over, and it's so not true. But we've all heard that stigma,
Yeah.
and so no, you kind of don't talk about it. I mean, like I said, that's not the first date conversation for sure, you know.
It's a second date conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22nd. No,
Yeah.
but it's changes. Yeah. Oh my God. The changes that women go through is crazy. And every woman's different. That's something that I can't stress enough. And men can't think we're just all cookie cutter. And, I had this happen to me. I told you, Marnie, when I met you, that I was in a relationship when I started menopause and did not know what to expect, did not know what was going to happen. And I was just unfortunately on the spectrum of worse,
Yeah.
and my then partner, he had a twin brother. He has a twin brother, and the twin brother's wife was one woman who went through it with no symptoms, nothing. I didn't even know it happened, which is rare. But I was then
Right.
compared, like,
Right.
well, then you're crazy, and you're just like just making this all up. And so I can't say enough that there's no one lesson here on how to handle it or what to expect or what to think she
Well,
is going
maybe
through.
paint a picture for the guys of what the crazy might look like for them, where they're
Yeah.
thinking this is just you versus
Hmm.
this is, and then they still have the choice whether or not
Yeah.
to accept it, right? But what is it that perimenopause can do to you that can alter
Well,
your personality, kind
I
of?
mean, what's really truly happening in the most simplistic form is the hormones are leaving the building, and the hormones control everything in our body, literally every single thing. And men find it too. We all know testosterone
Yeah.
wanes and things happen. But literally anything and everything can happen when that goes on. So to the extreme of we've all heard of hot flashes, we've all heard of like moods and things like that. Some women gain weight. Um, there's the scary sex things dry up, all these kind of things. So it's moodiness.
I was like, what are the scary sex things?
Scary
Like
sex
things fly
things.
out of your vagina? What happens?
No, but
Nothing flies out of your
things
vagina.
get
Gnats in my case.
Yeah.
yeah, right. Things get drier. Hormones, that's
Hmm.
part
Your
of
sex
what
drive isn't as
feeds
high.
it. Your sex drive
Hmm.
isn't as high. It isn't always. Some women experience pain during
Yeah.
sex, other than just the dryness. So guys also can't be afraid of the word lube, like, because I think there's been a stigma, like when they're
Hmm.
younger and growing up, like if you need that, you're not excited, you're not,
Right.
ready to go,
You're
you're
not
not
turning them
into
on.
me, you're not, yeah, and that is absolutely not the case.
Hmm.
It's just so not the case. My friend always says she needs to use it, and she's 45 and just starting to go through it.
Hmm.
It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just life. The weight gain's hard. Not everyone experienced all these. I'm just thinking of things that people told me,
Yeah. And so then what are things that men who are listening, how can they be supportive during this period so that there is still love there? Because even what you were saying before, you were being compared to somebody else whose symptoms were very different. And it
Mhm.
sounds like he was pointing the finger at you saying, like, this is an
Yeah.
excuse, this is crazy. What could have been, or what was the response that you were looking for during that time that would have created more connection?
Well, I always tried to share like what I was going through. I mean, some women like when things happen, you can get like heart palpitations. That's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
and withdrawn and like so you try and share everything you're going through. And so all you can hope for is they'll never maybe completely understand, but don't look at me like I'm an evil, crazy person with my head spinning around, spinning pea green soup. I think I told you, Marty, when I first met you, like there was a saying like any war can be won if you like stuff it with women going through menopause, because it's hard and it's a change that we don't know what to expect. Things are happening almost daily. That's like, whoa, what is this? What's going on there? Why do I feel
So is
this
it really
way?
just being more empathetic to understand that this is
Absolutely,
hard?
because they're not going to understand. We get that. They're never going to understand what it's like to have a child. They're not going to understand what it's like to have a period. It's just I they're not going to,
Right.
But just please be empathetic and try and ask questions and say, "Well, what could I do?" And just every man's gone through a woman like having her period, and they all know that they kind of have to like kind of deal with that one day. Well, now deal with like a handful of years. So
Right.
sorry to say, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
So it's, and do some research on your own if you're really caring, just there's plenty of things out there that, go to old Dr. Google and like what to expect. My wife is going through menopause or my girlfriend or just, whatever. And take some initiative too. It'll never be perfect. You're going to get in fights. Things are going to happen. I get it. But it's not an end all. It's not the death sentence. Like this too shall pass.
Right. And on the flip side, you want her to also be empathetic towards the changes that you're going through, where men have a
Yeah.
lot of ED issues or need a penis pump to have sex.
Yeah.
Like that's
And
where
aren't as
honest.
interested in it. And sometimes women
Mhm.
get more interested in sex and men get less. It's just a weird world. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
who created us, but it's
Well, we were
just
supposed to die at
yeah.
35, right? So they're like, I don't know what to do with you once you're over
I always,
35.
when I was going through menopause, I'm like, okay, God is definitely not a woman if you believe in God, because this is bananas.
Uh,
So, no, you have to, again, it's take the initiative. I've used that word over and over in this call, but it's like from the day you sit down next to me at a bar to all the way through, you got to take some initiative, on
yeah.
both sides.
Yeah, on both sides, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
know, like you're old school. Maybe I'm more old school. I don't know. We have to start interviewing some 20-year-olds to see what they actually really respond to, because I kind of think they still like that too. Like we don't want complete equality where we are the men.
No,
Now we just want to be equal in many areas of our lives in terms of being
no.
paid and respected. But when it comes to, gender rules, I think most people still are
Yeah,
attracted and
they
like
want
to stick to
that
those rules.
guy to
I
set
want
the
men to
first
lead,
date. They want, yeah,
but I'm an alpha female. I still
Oh,
like
I
leading quite
absolutely
often.
am. And I have
Yeah.
to draw it back sometimes because I'm like, oh God, what,
Yes.
you know,
I'm totally
like,
emasculating you.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I so have to like turn here. Where do
Yeah.
but I think that's why I'm attracted to also alpha men,
Yeah.
which is why it leads me back to the whole point of like, take charge of the conversation, or at least engage in the conversation. Text me when you get home, do that, because
Are
that's
any
an
of your
alpha
friends
man.
attracted to beta males?
I don't know if they like, most people don't say they are, but I don't know, some of
Well,
them
do you,
do. Yeah, I
yeah.
have a friend who, it's so weird. Like they they met, and I mean within like a few days they were talking on the phone every single day for like hours, and that is, to me, was just so weird. And I shouldn't judge. I did, but I shouldn't. But it's
But
just,
she was in love. My sister-in-law is the
well,
same.
she
She
wasn't in
is the
love. It was
most
3 days in. I mean,
right, right, right. But no, but she was excited. So I will say my sister-in-law, so she's divorced, or she was divorced. She's married again. But her now husband, it's so interesting. I wouldn't classify him as a beta male because he definitely is the leader, but he's more timid.
Mhm,
Definitely more subdued. But he's kind and he is so intelligent. They have great conversation. She is definitely the dominant one in that
mhm,
relationship, but he is like the lion tamer. He's the only one who can tame her. He's not
mhm,
this bravado alpha male who's like walks into a room and you're like, oh, there's Tom. It's like,
mhm.
oh, there's Danielle. Tom's behind her, but it I don't even know how to properly describe it because he can do something with her that nobody else in my husband's family can, which is get her to soften up. And it's
Yeah,
not
and
with like
that
his
works for
strength.
her, and that
Yeah.
works for her. But I don't relate to that well, because that doesn't do it for me. Again,
Yeah.
going back to when you asked me what would some guy need to do when he sat down next to you, kind of thing, that doesn't do it. But no, one of my closest friends for many, many years, she's always like been the breadwinner, bring it
Yeah.
home and do all that. And like, even when he's just like, he just doesn't get stuff done ever,
Yeah.
and
But what does he
I
do
don't
for
know.
her then?
I
What does
don't
she like about him?
I mean, something,
Is he great in bed? Is he a great conversationalist? Does he comfort her? Is he empathizing with her
And I
all the
also think he
time?
lets her be in charge, which is a big thing,
Yeah.
because a lot of men wouldn't do that and things. So no, I still ask that question, so I can't answer that. I
Well,
just,
let's get her on the podcast because I'd love to hear what she has to say.
I
That would be
know,
interesting.
I know.
Okay. All right, I'm going to wrap up this show, but thank you so much for coming on. And I'm
Oh,
glad that this worked
absolutely.
out. I know we switched over to Zoom, but this worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. And thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you. It
Yeah.
was nice to meet you.
All
Yeah,
right.
new
Thank you.
episodes of the Ask Women podcast come out every Tuesday now. What time does it come out? I actually don't know. You've been posting them. What time does it come out, Kristen?
It's been 9 a.m. Eastern.
Okay, 9 a.m. Eastern. So right in the morning. So it comes out first thing on Tuesday morning. So please go and subscribe to our show so you don't have to actively go and download each individual episode because that time you could be using to better your conversation skills. So the next time that Jen is sitting beside you at a bar, you can ask her open-ended questions and then share a ton about yourself. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week.